Hello. If you're like me, you saw the news today that Jonathan Majors was found guilty on two of the four charges that were brought against him by the DA in New York. Did you see that? Yes, he was found guilty. It was two of the lesser charges, but he was found guilty of harassment and also of assault. That was breaking news earlier today. The jury deliberated for 5 hours. It was a total of 5 hours. I will tell you, we had some doubts and we thought it's going on into day five, and the jury still did not reach a verdict. It was not looking good for Jonathan Majors at this point when the jury did not have a verdict by Friday. I was kind of suspicious of that, and I thought at that point that because of the delay in the jury's verdict that he was going to be found guilty, which in actuality he was found guilty today. Now, but I do have some questions. I have some questions for the defense attorney, and I am not a lawyer, but I questioned quite a few missteps during this process. Like, for instance, they tried to act as if nothing actually occurred in that car, and we definitely know something was happening. It seems as if they may have been fighting or tussling in the back of the car when she grabbed his phone. And with that, that means that something was happening. But when somebody grabs your cell phone, how do they propose you get it back? If someone is hitting on you and striking you and grabbing your personal possessions, your personal items, how do you get that item back from that individual if they're right on top of you and in that moment you're struggling? His defense attorney seemed to have gone with the notion that nothing occurred, but we know something was occurring. The taxi driver said something was happening. So whatever happened in that car when Jonathan Majors managed to get away and get out the car, he then put her back in. And that is actually the harassment charge, which I was surprised about. I thought harassment was he was calling her, he was texting her, but the harassment was when he picked her up and put her back in the car. It looked from the video that he was actually trying to get away from her. Thus, he picked her up to put her in the car and then to take off running. So for the defense to say that nothing happened, it was pretty obvious that something was happening, and it was obvious that his hands did come into contact with her. So to say that did not happen when one can see with the naked eye that something did occur, I do question them using that as their defense. It seems that Jonathan Majors could have used self-defense, but they did not use self-defense. Now, his attorney, she's been practicing for quite a while, and I'm not a lawyer, but I did question some of the things, and I was like, why did she say that? Why isn't she using self-defense? And then to see that also in her closing remarks, she kept attacking the character of his ex-girlfriend. And I really, just listening to that, I was not impressed, or I did not take away a good feeling from that. Jonathan Majors actually cried in those closing remarks. There did not seem to be anything emotional in what she said. There was no boom impact in her closing arguments. She may have supposedly she was supposed to, maybe they had prepared and planned for that, which is why he took out the tissue and he was crying and Megan Good was crying, and they were all prepared, it seems. And what she said was make this nightmare go away for him. But I felt like she should have talked about his character. The fact that when the police were coming into the house, he ran and got the blanket to cover her up. The fact that when he came in, he had to use the doorman or the handyman to help get him in because he was trying to check on her. The fact that when he found her unconscious and she couldn't wake up, well, I'm assuming she couldn't wake up. When he found her like that, instead of ignoring her, letting her be, he called the police to try to get some kind of help for her. So I think they should have talked more about his character and what he did in that moment. And then the fact that that night he took off running for his dear life to get away from her. He was running. I will tell you, as a woman and as a mom, it does make me nervous to see that you can have this situation occur and it can escalate and cost someone their entire life. It can. Jonathan Majors, he may get another movie deal in the future. He may not. He is well off at this moment than many other individuals are when these types of charges are brought against them. So in this situation, he had the ability and he had the resources to hire a decent attorney. Well, we think she was a decent attorney to help him, to defend him against this type of case. But as a mom, I'm trying to take away some lessons to tell my sons to say, listen, if you are in a situation, well, hopefully you're not cheating. You shouldn't cheat. We already talked about this. But if you are in a situation where you and your girlfriend, for whatever reason, your argument has escalated, and now she does one of these things where she grabs your phone, don't grab it back. At that point, you might just want to call the police or call for help and report it as stolen at that point, because that is what she did. That's the other thing for the defense. Why didn't they say she stole his phone? That's theft. She took his item. That was theft. He got it back. She started fighting because she didn't want to let go of his property, and then it was self-defense. I mean, so many other questions with that. But anyway, he was found guilty. The jury the jury had their time, and they made their decision, and that's what it is, and we have to respect it. But as a mom, I do want to say that there are some things that I am trying to make sure I take this as a lesson for the young men in my life, to tell them, one, don't be in a situation where you're cheating like that. And two, if you are having a situation with you and your girlfriend, do not put your hands on her. Do not touch her. Do not push her off of you. Do not push her back in the car. Do not push her back down. Do not touch her. I think with this situation, that is literally the only thing Jonathan Majors could have done differently, was not touch her. When he opened up that car door, he should have ran. He didn't need to put her back in the car because, as you can see, it made no difference. She came after him anyway. So with him being found guilty, to use this as an opportunity to learn, all of us can learn from this. If you are in this situation, young men, do not put your hands on a female, or vice versa. Do not put your hands on the other partner. Do not grab their personal property. Do not grab their cell phones. Do not touch them. I think in this situation for Jonathan Majors, the only thing that he could have done differently was not touch her. I think that's the one thing he could have done differently. If he had not touched her, like for instance, when he was getting out the car, instead of putting her back in, and it looked like he was putting her back in to stop her from running after him, but obviously it didn't stop her from running after him. So for that, he might as well had opened up that car door and bolted and just took off running. That's what he really probably should have done. Now that we see this, hindsight is 2020, right? So in that moment, him putting her back in the car is one of the charges that he was found guilty of. And that was actually the harassment charge. That wasn't the assault. I actually thought that was going to be the assault charge, but that was the harassment charge. The assault is the situation that occurred in the car when she took his cell phone from him and he retrieved his cell phone. So the altercation and whatever was going on in that car in that moment is why he was found guilty of that particular charge. So all of us need to take this as a learning opportunity. Teach young men and young women not to touch each other when you're having an argument, when these things escalate, because you can seriously hurt one another, and that could be your significant other, your partner, and things can blow up and escalate, and you can cost both of you your entire livelihoods.